here at COP21 at Le Bourget, right outside Paris, and we're here today with Philip Gass. And we are, the focus of our reporting has been the gap that's left between where the agreement that's being ratified here is going to predictably leave us and what it's going to take to actually ensure a future of sustainability, which commonly has been agreed to that we don't go past 2 degrees above pre-industrial level. And so we're thrilled that you're here and to give your perspective on this, because we're really out to let civil society know how much time we really have until it's too late. Yes, we love the progress, we love the optimism, all of that, but there really is a window that we're working against. And what is that window, and what do you see is going to actually bridge the gap? So if you could just introduce yourself, give us a little bit about your background, your work, and again, thank you for being with us.
My name is Philip Gass. I'm with the International Institute for Sustainable Development. I've been working on sustainable development for about 8 years. I've attended a few COPs before. I was at the COP in Copenhagen a few years ago. I was in Lima last year and here this year. And I think that in relation to your question, what we're dealing with this year that's new is that all countries have started to take on commitments. All of these INDCs that we're seeing, you know what, it's maybe not going to come out exactly as they're written, and there's certainly a big gap left to go. But I think that it is a good show of motivation that all these countries are making commitments. And what we're going to have to determine here is how we bind those together in a legal agreement, and also getting from where we are now with these INDCs to closing that 2-degree gap. And I think that that's a key issue they're going to have to sort out to ratchet up motivation over the course of the next few years to get to exactly where we need to go.
Right. So for example, when I was listening to the opening remarks yesterday from different leaders of the countries, and you heard the China, what they said was that they were going to I think what they said was that they were going to work so that their emissions peaked by 2030 and then started to decline.
Yeah.
But if you look at the White House report, what they say is that the emissions have to peak somewhere within the next 10 years and then to start to decline. So you hear things like that, and I think the normal person, just really wants to know, okay, that's great that that's happening, but is that going to be enough? And if it isn't, what are we going to do about it? So I've heard both from the representatives here at this COP21, for example, the co-chair, also the co-chair that we interviewed of last year's COP, saying that, that this really is about, as you say, collaboration, getting everyone together and coming up with something that's more of a beginning than an ending. Mm-hmm. And that the United Nations or the governments really are not going to be the ones to close the gap to actually end the crisis in time, that's going to come from civil society. So do you see that as well, or what do you see in terms of the gap? Who is going to be the ones to close it?
I think that it's got to be an effort of everybody, and that includes governments, it includes civil society, it includes companies that are willing to make investments in clean energy. I think that's a very important part of it as well. We've got this $100 billion per year target for climate financing that we've got to meet. And it's not that any one party can do it on their own. And I think that what civil society provides is it helps to shine a light onto these issues and not allow countries who may not be right up front and wanting to do the absolute most that they can to kind of pressuring them to do it.
Right.
And I think that we saw that with the even when the climate march was canceled, you still saw all these people putting their shoes out there as a sign that we're not going away and we're not going to stop. And,
yes.
And I think that that's an important role that civil society plays. Civil society also includes research institutes like ours, and what we're trying to do is trying to shed light on some of these commitments and say, well, if you commit to reducing your emissions by a certain amount, these are the policies you're going to have to introduce, and these are the carbon prices you're going to have to do to get there.
Right.
So that it gets more than just a target. It gets to what you need to do to implement and achieve that target as well. So it's a wide range of activities from a wide range of players.
Okay. And in terms of the focus on implementation, mm-hmm. where do you see the status of that right now? Mm-hmm. Are you at the beginning phases of what it's at, kind of the strategies, the actual plans, what it's going to look like to have the INDC actually get implemented? Are we kind of in the infancy of that? Are we kind of well into the progression of that, or where would you say that we are with that?
The last year has been a big rush to get these INDCs developed. I think a lot of countries took a lot of effort to get there. But what we now need to figure out is what are the policies that are going to implement and meet these targets. So I would say we're reaching the end of the target setting phase, but we're at the infancy of the implementation phase. And that's as important, if not more important, because it's one thing to set a target, it's another thing to be able to actually meet it. And while some countries do have those plans in place, the US is an example where they've got a plan to phase out coal, there's a lot of other countries that need to do more, and the US as well needs to do more. They've made this plan to implement coal out of the grid, but more's got to be done as well. And so I think that that's an ongoing process, and we'll see much more detail on that over the next year.
Okay. And so, and again, not to belabor this, but even with the INDCs, if they do get implemented and do get kept, it's not enough, and everyone agrees that it's not enough. But what we're going to do to bridge the gap just seems to be a bit amorphous, whatever we need to do, and that's just where, and again, I'm not a scientist, but just kind of from the perspective of like a project management look at it, that there isn't really kind of the concrete, this is what we're going to do, we're going to accomplish this in the next 5 years, accomplishing this in the next 5 years, or this combination of these results in the next 5 years. With the INDCs implemented successfully, we can predict at that point that we're not going to go past the safety window. You see? Yeah. And who's at work on that, or is there anyone at work on that?
I think there's a lot of organizations at work. Ours is one of them. We specialize in fossil fuel subsidy reform. And so what we're working with several countries to try and get fossil fuel subsidy reform integrated into INDCs.
Okay.
If it's not in the INDCs, we're trying to point out to some countries, well, if you did implement it, this is what you can achieve. And so I think that that's one way to get to ratchet up the ambition that you're talking about. Right now, just going back to fossil fuel subsidies, only 13 INDCs include efforts to reduce fossil fuel subsidies. There's a lot more countries that are subsidizing fossil fuels that we think could take that up. So that's a part of it. It's going to be a long process. It's going to be a challenge over the next year, and you sense some frustration or some exhaustion from civil society delegates who have attended year after year, and they see process moving slowly. And I think what I try to say to them is take heart in the fact that looking back 5 years to Copenhagen, where we've come. In Copenhagen, you had the developed countries taking on targets, and you had a list of actions from developing countries. Now, well over almost 150 countries have INDCs, so they have something. And so I think that we always want to move faster. We need to move faster. But I think we also need to, take a little solace in how far and how fast we have moved. And not stop pushing. It's like every year you run a marathon, and then you get to the end of it, you get an agreement at the COP to just run another marathon. And so it's exhausting, it's tiring, but it is having results. And I think that civil society, I would suggest, needs to, not lose hope. Yesterday was a good day in that with all these leaders here, we had some motivation, we got some of these announcements, and I think it's really positive to see. I come from Canada, and it was really positive to see, for example, Canada committing $30 million to the Least Developed Countries Fund and trying to set a positive tone, and other countries have done so as well. And that's really positive to see, but what we need to make sure is that it translates from commitments into an agreement at the end of 2 weeks.
Okay, great. And I know there's some talk in the conference that the thing that would make the biggest difference in terms of bridging the gap would be a universal carbon tax. Okay? And what's your view on that?
Carbon pricing has got to definitely be part of the solution. Not necessarily every country is ready to implement it now, but I think the ones that can, the ones that do have the ability to do it, should do it now and should help the others do it as well. So a country that has carbon pricing in place, like the EU, may be looking to help some developing countries move towards that. And carbon pricing can take many forms. It can be a carbon tax, it can be a cap and trade system, it can be subsidy reform, it can be any number of options. And I think we just need to work with countries to find the options that are right for them, but it's got to be part of the solution, absolutely.
Okay, great. And then anything for the members of just kind of ordinary person that's watching out there, anything that you would want to leave them with from what you think would make the biggest difference for them to know, or for them to participate in, or for them to begin to get involved in as a result of all that's happening here?
You know what? I think anybody from any background can have a role, whether it's standing outside and holding up signs that say stop coal power, or whether it's researchers like myself contributing to identifying policy tools, to the youth Engos who doggedly pursue some of the negotiators and make sure that they're living up to their commitments.
Yes.
Everybody can play a part, and you don't need to be an expert, you don't need to be a scientist, you don't need to be a country representative, and that's what's great about this event. And even at this venue is open to the public. It's open to everybody, and it's for that reason that I think people should really try to do whatever they can in any small or big way.
Right. Well, Philip, thank you very much. Just really awesome meeting you, awesome hearing from you, and just thank you for all your work.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.